What does the UN, the drug cartel, the oil fields in Saudi Arabia, and the security patrol around the diamond mines in Africa have in common? They all use Land Cruisers. Why? Because the Land Cruiser is the ultimate and the most reliable 4x4 ever made. It's indestructible. Toyota engineers have stated that the Land Cruiser is built for a 25-year lifespan in third world countries. In this video, I'll be going through the history and talk about the improvements throughout its development, and you'll see why I consider the Land Cruiser the best 4x4 ever made. And after showing you each model, I'll talk about the newest version of the Land Cruiser, which will be making its debut in 2021. The original 20 Series was the first of the Jeep-like vehicles that Toyota produced. It was reverse engineered after the Willys Jeep during the Korean War. Toyota even called the vehicle a Jeep, but in 1954, Willys' legal team quickly mounted an effort to challenge Toyota on the naming rights, and Toyota was forced to rename the vehicle, which they called the Land Cruiser. Now, the FJ20 was the original, but it's the FJ40 that most people see as the iconic original Land Cruiser. In 1958, Toyota sold one FJ40 for the entire year. It was the start of something big. These early models were designed by engineers with very little input from Toyota's in-house design team. Everything about the early Land Cruisers were built around function and not fashion. They were a no-nonsense, bare essentials, utilitarian Jeep-like vehicle designed to take on the most demanding terrain reliably. They didn't have an ounce of sound insulation added to the interior, as they were very Spartan in their design. The FJ40 started catching on as a durable vehicle, but it wasn't until the mid-60s that Toyota design team finally had their first crack at designing the next Land Cruiser. They were tasked with creating a spacious, enclosed vehicle that was capable of cruising at 80 miles per hour, haul an entire family with gear, and yet be 100% off-road capable. The result was the J55, which would define the Land Cruiser SUVs forever after. So between 1967 and 1980, the J55 rolled off the assembly lines, and during this period, the Land Cruiser came in two varieties, the FJ40, of course, and the J55 Cruiser station wagon, which is what this is. Now, the wagon accounted for only 11% of the total sales. The J55 was first nicknamed the Moose, likely by Canadians who bought these rigs and most likely knew what a moose actually looked like. And later it was nicknamed the Iron Pig, which has been affectionately called ever since. And just like a pig, it could eat up everything in its path. The 55 Series was equipped with the 3.9-liter inline-six, which hit the 80 mile per hour mark as designed, and also met the all-important American 20 mile per hour frontal crash test. The 55 Series featured a very simple interior with 3-on-the-tree shifting. This was a true truck chassis, and the locking hubs were an option that was installed by the dealer. Later on, they were installed by Toyota themselves with the ASIN brand, but the earlier ones, you had many different types of hubs that were installed. Now, interestingly enough, if you were to take 6 of these 7 Land Cruisers that I have presented here today and put them in the garage for 1 year, you'd find that these 6 Land Cruisers would actually go up in value in that year. They're actually really good investments, and the reason that they're good investments is because they're fantastic vehicles. The rugged but lanky J55 finally gave way to the J60, which ran between the years 1980 to 1987. The J60 was more in tune with the American roads with comfort and convenience in mind, and air conditioning was just an option. But it still only came with a 4-speed manual. It also had the 2F carbureted engine, and maintenance-free fuel delivery had not quite arrived yet on the scene. It also had 56 vacuum lines to comply with emissions. That is a lot of vacuum lines to maintain. Now, these were all transition years for the automotive manufacturers, who were all trying their best to comply with emission standards while using older engine technology and Toyota was no different. The 62 series picked up right where the 60 series left off and ran between the years 1988 and 1990, so it wasn't a long run. And it looks virtually the same as the 60 series except for the square headlamps and the updated interior. However, the big improvement of the 62 was actually something that you cannot see from the outside. It was the engine that transformed the 62 series Land Cruiser into a much more reliable off-roader with the ultra-dependable 3FE 4.0 fuel-injected engine. Now the mileage actually improved from 11 to a whopping 12 miles per gallon, but keep in mind that at these low numbers, 1 mile per gallon increase would be equal to almost a 10% increase in fuel efficiency, and that's actually substantial. It also came equipped with 3-point seat belts in the rear for the little ones, and the 62 series also added small conveniences such as power door locks and mirrors. And the 60 series, and in particular the 62 series shown here, hits the sweet spot between the earlier Spartan Land Cruisers and the later full-on luxury models. They were simple, easy to work on like all Land Cruisers, customizable and over-engineered. Production numbers were 5,091 units in 1989, which is what the year of this is. So there are not a whole lot of rust-free units out there remaining. That means that these cruisers are really becoming collectible. The 60 series proved itself to be one tough truck. Now this was the start of the long arc of Toyota showing the world that it was a quality manufacturer. The interior on the 60 series was now also available with fancier cloth rather than the vinyl of the previous cruisers. Wall-to-wall floor upholstery was standard, which was a departure from the purely utilitarian aspects of the FJ40. And in 1984, the 4-speed automatic transmission became available. The suspension was an agricultural-style leaf spring setup together with a solid front axle, which had come to define the Land Cruiser as a serious off-roader. The 62 series was designed and sold for the North American market through the 1980s, and it is during this time where the 70 series picks up in this story. The 70 series started production in 1985 till the present as a 2- and 4-door model, but it was never sold in the US. The 70 series is actually considered a successor to the FJ40 Cruiser. North America got the more posh 60 series, whereas the rest of the world got the more utilitarian 70 series shown here. Production of the 70 series still runs today in many parts of the world. Now this vehicle is built more like a tractor than a car. If you look underneath the Cruiser, you can see just how robust the build quality is. It looks like train parts. It's also simple and unbelievably reliable in Land Cruiser fashion. It came in 2 variants, the light duty and the heavy duty, which is what this is. The 70 is still marketed in Australia as being indestructible, which is a word I would give the entire Land Cruiser lineup. Now back in the US, the 60 series was starting to show its age with a lack of luxury features that were showing up in other luxury 4x4 manufacturers, such as the highly capable but unreliable Range Rover. Toyota saw this niche it could fill and introduced the highly capable 80 series in 1989, which ran till 1997. This was the first Land Cruiser to push deeper into the luxury 4x4 territory. It still featured the solid front axle, but it was more hermetically sealed than previous models. It was equipped with modern features such as airbags and anti-lock brakes. I sold this 11 years ago to a landscaper in my community who uses it just as the Land Cruisers were designed to be used. In other words, he uses it as a tool, and you can see over the years it's had a lot of wear, but it's still running today, and that's a testament to the Land Cruiser quality. The 80 series also had coil springs instead of leaf springs, but still featured the solid front axle design along with a full floating rear axle, which makes the 80 series one of the most popular off-roaders in history. In 1993, the Land Cruiser came with an optional differential locker, which only 7% of all Land Cruisers came with. 1993 also received the electronic overdrive option. The body had integrated roll bars and became one of the best-selling Land Cruisers of all time. This was the pinnacle of the Japanese economic bubble, and Land Cruiser factory in Tahara, Japan was producing this fine, high caliber 4x4 around the clock. While the 80 series was great at combining on and off-road capabilities, Toyota was finding it was losing market share to other more upscale 4x4s, and again, a change was needed. It was time to replace the 80 series with a more modern and roadworthy cruiser. Though the 80 series was a true off-road capable vehicle, it lacked finesse in snow, mud, and sand, and it was 1998 that Toyota moved away from building the Land Cruiser like a tractor and started designing it to be more like a freeway car that was comfortable both in long-haul driving, but still capable of just about anything you threw at it. Enter the 100 series, which ran between the years 1998 to 2007. Now, they did away with the beloved solid front axle on the 80 and replaced it with a controversial independent suspension. Now, many enthusiasts balked at that, but the time had really come for the Land Cruiser line to offer better road handling at highway speeds. And as time passed, it became apparent that the new suspension, though not as unbreakable as the solid front axle, was nevertheless tough as nails and could hold up to most demanding off-roading. It also helped that the 100 series offered a new 8-cylinder engine borrowed off the mighty Lexus LS200, and the only difference in that engine was that the Land Cruiser engine was fitted with an iron block as the core, which made the 100 series engine as unstressed and reliable as can be. In the year 2000, the 100 series improved the drivetrain with a track system which applies braking to each corner as needed, and this is what made it even more stable in sand, mud, and snow. And in 2003, the 100 series received an upgraded 5-speed transmission. And then in 2006, the Land Cruiser featured a more powerful UZE engine with variable valve timing, with drive-by-wire throttle control, and it increased the horsepower from 235 to 275. Simply put, the 2006 and the 2007 were the best years of the 100 series cruisers. In the final year of production, the 100 series Land Cruiser helped Toyota capture the title of the world's largest automaker. These early Land Cruisers were simple, affordable, and ultra reliable. This is from an era that perhaps we'll never see again, at least with the Land Cruiser line when you compare it to the 200 series, which is out of most people's league in affordability. The Land Cruisers are going up in value year by year, and the main thing that you want to look out for on these vehicles is, of course, previous damage, but also rust. Rust was a concern, especially in the very early years of Toyota. So that means that you have to confine your searches to the California and Arizona area. That's where the rust-free copies of the Land Cruisers are. As a side note, the variant of the 100 series was the Land Cruiser 105, which was available in Australia and other countries. It retained the solid front axle from the FJ80 and did away with most luxury features in favor of a more utilitarian off-roader. Now, the FJ Cruiser is an anomaly within the Land Cruiser lineup. It looks like it was designed by the Lego and toy division of Toyota's design team, and Toyota must have gotten caught up in the retro design craze that was happening at the time and must have felt some bit of nostalgia about the long forgotten FJ40, which it emulates. Now, the new FJ Cruiser, which ran between the years 2005 to 2013 in the US, that is built on the Prado chassis. Now, that's the lightweight version of the Land Cruiser sold worldwide, and it's really still considered by many as a very capable off-roader. It's a shame they stopped producing them, as it was really more in line with the original Land Cruiser concept. In other words, it was an average off-roader could actually afford it. The newest version of the Land Cruiser is pretty much well outside the budget of most consumers, which might be the actual demise of the Land Cruiser line in the long run. I hope not. The world needs a small, rugged 4x4 that is dependable, affordable, and I'm afraid that is no longer the newest Land Cruiser. After a 9-year run with the 100 Series, which is a really long time in the car world, Toyota revealed the 200 Series, which was 5 years in development. In 2008, the 200 Series was launched, and it's scheduled to run until 2020. It had an all-new 5.7 V8, together with A-Track with crawl control, which is sort of like a low-speed off-road cruise control. The 200 Series radiates superiority in every situation, whether you're cruising down the highway, or towing a heavy load, or tackling the most demanding terrain. It really oozes confidence. In 2016, the 200 Series was upgraded to a new 8-speed transmission. Now, the word that Toyota designers and engineers used throughout the development of the 200 Series was trust. Everything about this capable off-roader had to engender this quality in every single way. It is simply the best and most trusted 4x4 ever built. It's a true body-on-frame bruiser cruiser. Now, the future remains uncertain for this heritage vehicle. Production numbers are at their lowest point in the history of Land Cruiser. Word has it that the 300 Series will debut later as the 2021 model and will feature a twin-turbo V6 lifted from the current LS200. There's also going to be a hybrid variant of that same setup. The Land Cruiser will always be a magnificent beast that we come to love. I'm Greg, your car angel. Thanks for watching this video. And no, Toyota did not pay me. I just love Land Cruisers. So take a moment and subscribe to this channel if you haven't done so already. Give it a thumbs up if you enjoyed it, and leave your comments below. I do read them. So thanks again, and I'll see you in the next video. Take care.